I'm glad to see that you're using your Start Strong checklist and some of these great how-to videos because I want to talk about how to log food accurately and use it as a learning tool because I want to walk you through this, how to log your food accurately and efficiently, and just as importantly, how to use that food logging as a short-term learning tool and not as something you need to rely on forever. So this is different from the video where we talk about why tracking can be helpful and some of the pitfalls that you can fall into. Today is really just about the practical side, how to do it well, what actually matters, and how to avoid common mistakes, especially those that create some frustration or guilt. So, quick short version, why we actually log. Food logging isn't really about control or perfection, it's really just about awareness. We are using it to learn what portions actually look like, how different foods contribute to energy and macronutrients, what patterns and habits show up in your real life, and that accuracy early on can really give you a lot of freedom later. So the goal is really about skill building, not tracking forever. And I learned a lot about this when I was in college, and we actually use this as a tool to learn more about our own choices. So number one, I want to talk about choosing your own tracking method. There are a bunch of free apps you can use, and whatever method feels manageable for you. We have a few options here. You could use the food and mood journal in Practice Better and within the app itself. So if you want to make sure that you have access to this or have any questions, just let me know. But there are a lot of other options. One of the most common is MyFitnessPal. It's been around a long time. It has a robust database. Chronometer, it has a verified database. It's really ideal for precision. Lose It is another one. It's user-friendly. It's pretty simple. Fujicate's one that I haven't tried out as much, but it seems to help you understand the quality of your food by not just calories, by giving you a little bit of a grading system, which, could go one way or the other as far as being helpful. And then if you are actually using Eat Love with Me, that is our meal planning software that actually helps you automate meal planning. It also has a food log within it, so you can use, if any of the recipes that you're using, you can automatically populate. It can help you create grocery lists. Has a large variety of recipes, and it even has Walmart pickup, so it can be really easy. But honestly, even if you do just a written food journal, if your focus right now is simply on awareness, there is really no best option. The value really comes from consistency and being able to learn from what you're actually writing down, not the tool itself. So if you need help navigating an app, there are plenty of tutorials online. What matters most is just how you use the information. So, how to log accurately, one of the most important points of this video. We want to learn about measuring and weighing, especially at the beginning. That's how we log accurately. We actually measure it out. We actually weigh it out. If you need to get a kitchen scale, those are really easy to find. And the reason this can be helpful, especially at the beginning, is that it's one of the best ways to improve your accuracy. Weighing is the most precise method, and using a food scale for a few weeks really helps you retrain your brain to understand portions. Now, the reason that this can be helpful, it's kind of like, if you're making a cake and you're trying to follow a recipe, but you decide you want to use half the sugar and double the flour, and it's going to be terrible in the end. This is just about you taking the time to actually see what's going into this. So you can learn, what does 4 ounces of cooked chicken actually look like? What is 2 tablespoons of peanut butter when really we didn't realize it, but we're having 4 tablespoons of peanut butter every time we have it? What does a cup of broccoli actually look like on your plate? So keep in mind, if you're creating a recipe, you will need to add the ingredients individually or find the closest possible option. So if you do use recipes consistently, I definitely recommend creating it and saving it as a recipe or meal if you're using an app that allows you to. I do have a great little quick tutorial video I've linked. It's just put out by MyFitnessPal that puts it fairly succinctly, so you can see that in the Start Strong guide. So just remember, this is not about being obsessive. It's just about calibration. So once you learn these visual cues, estimation becomes a lot easier, especially when you're eating out. Plus, even food labels are legally supposed to be within 20% of actual calories, which means that any given amount on a label may be slightly over or underestimated. So that's one of the reasons it's really important that we use this as a tool to begin recalibrating and trusting our body's feedback. It really has a lot to say if we're willing to slow down and listen. Now, if we're using it as a learning tool, the log isn't just a place to enter food. It's a place where we learn. We gather the data so that you can actually see the difference. So as you log, we're gonna start noticing which foods are more protein dense, what keeps you full and energized and satisfied, which meals are higher in calories but lower in volume and leave you kind of feeling like unsatisfied, what eating styles help boost your mood, whether changing your exercise or dietary habits impacts your sleep quality, or maybe even noticing changes in productivity at work or less, brain fog. Really, just curiosity beats judgment every time here. The goal is understanding, not self-criticism. So don't worry about what you should do. Just start noticing what makes a difference to you. Now, if you're curious about macros, we go into details about what these truly are later, but we're thinking carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Now, if you're familiar with macros or enjoy having some structure there, you can use a general macro split as a guide. A balanced range typically looks like protein being 25 to 30%, carbohydrates 40 to 50%, and fats around 25 to 35%. This can kind of change just based on your preferences or your training or your lifestyles. I am never going to be somebody who has a really low carbohydrate diet. And if you're trying to do, like, for example, training for some sort of marathon or something, it's a really bad idea to go low carb. So keep that in mind. The protein consistency matters most for body composition, traditionally around 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram or around 0.6 to 1 gram per pound. We will go into that later as well. Next, very, very important, calories as weekly averages. We don't want to focus on hitting a calorie goal every single day. We want to focus on calorie intake as a weekly average, not perfect daily numbers, because there really are no on or off days. Weekend meals count too, and that's actually a good thing, because depending on your goal, we want to be able to, flex. Some days you're more hungry, some days you're less. You want to have fun on the weekends, but not in a way that completely destroys all your work during the week. So this is about learning how to balance all of that. A weekly range might look like around 10% above your estimated needs if you are going for muscle gain, or maybe 15 to 25% below your estimated needs if you're trying to go for some fat loss. Your body's feedback, that energy, that hunger, that performance, and that progress, it really tells you whether that range is right for you or not. You can also use logging as meal planning. This can be a great planning tool. So if you pre-log meals, it gives you a chance to check if you're in that energy or calorie range. See if you're missing something like protein or vegetables or some other important nutrients that you might be focusing on, and allows you to make adjustments before the day gets busy. So keep in mind, if you're pre-logging, plans can change. So adjust the log to reflect what you actually had, because that is also important feedback. So in week number 1, your job is just going to be the observer. There is no pressure to change, just notice the patterns that you have. In week number 2, we can start making some adjustments based on some things that we calculate that are personal to you. And then we can start aligning that intake with some of your goals. So over time, this will become easier. And we really want to just, step away from things that make us feel guilty. We want to loosen up on food rules and really just want to boost confidence. So after a few weeks or months, most people no longer really need to track much or at all. So because we've really learned portions, we've learned our patterns, we've learned what adjustments actually move the needle. And that's when we shift more towards those estimations, towards habit-based structure, towards flexibility for real life, and really focusing on some more intuitive eating. So tracking, it's just a tool. It's not a life sentence. Some weeks we might be more aligned 90% of the time. Other seasons, we might be more 60 or 70%. Both are successful when your baseline supports your health and your energy and your goals. So if you're curious about being extra accurate and you really want to see, maybe you're curious about, tracking micronutrients, like you're working on iron or you're working on, I don't know what it might be, but you're wanting to be really focused in, you can use some verified entries. You can also double check by referencing the USDA Food Data Central Database. It's that gold standard, and I will have the website listed in our how-to resources in your checklist. So just remember, consistently close beats occasionally perfect. Food logging isn't about control, it's just us understanding. And once you understand, you really get to choose how much structure you need to support your life, your goals, and your confidence around food. So let's get started.